London. Labour say the gains they've made mark a turning point, but Mr Johnson isn't so sure.
For mid-term, it's quite interesting that it's a mixed set of results. And I think that the lesson that I take is that we've got to get on with the stuff that matters to people. We've got to keep delivering on our agenda.
Labour, the Lib Dems and the Greens have all made gains in England. Early indications are that Sinn Féin may well become the biggest party on the Stormont Assembly for the first time. In the first 3 results declared, they have a 35% share of the vote, ahead of the DUP's 23%. Scotland's First Minister has hailed what she calls a seismic result for the SNP in Glasgow. Nicola Sturgeon's party had 2 councillors elected. Morrisons say its rescue proposal for McColl's would have secured the future of the majority of its shops and workers after lenders rejected the move and placed the convenience chain into administration. Asda is also reported to be interested. 16,000 jobs are at risk. Ben Stokes has broken the record for the most sixes in a county championship innings in his first game since being appointed England Test cricket captain. He smashed 17 on his way to scoring 161 from just 88 balls for Durham in their match at Worcestershire. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading down 133 at 73.70. The pound buys $1.24 and €1.17. And the weather, rain reaching east and southeast England overnight, along with low cloud, mist and hill fog. Elsewhere, variable cloud and clear spells, a low of 4. Light rain in the southeast at first tomorrow, then sunny intervals and showers. Warm in the southwest, but cooler in the east. It's a high of 19. From Global's newsroom, I'm Tim Humphrey.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Tom Swarbrick.
Just got 4. Very good afternoon. Tom Swarbrick into Eddie Mayer here on LBC. Hope we find you well. Coming up,
the supermarket Morrisons has made a last-minute bid to save the corner shop business McColl's from collapse. If it's accepted, the deal could save many of the 16,000 jobs that are at risk.
McColl's enters administration. A buyer may well be found pretty sharpish, though. Details to come. Also,
my officials are working to finalise our first relocation flight to Rwanda as we work to break the model of the people smuggling gangs.
The Law Society has condemned the Prime Minister as misleading and dangerous for saying liberal lawyers are attempting to halt plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. We'll speak to one of those liberal woke lawyers who has committed the cardinal sin, as far as I can see it, of doing their job. And
the Democrats move swiftly to shut the stable door after the horse has bolted. I'm Simon Marks, My American Week, live at 4:45.
Call 0345 60 60 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. Tom Swarbrick on LBC.
Mother's Day on Sunday, John.
I already gave her Mother's Day.
Yeah, well, we'll go and get her a little bonus, yeah? There's some flowers there. We'll go and get them on Sunday, yeah?
Okay.
That little kiosk on the roundabout, yeah?
Okay.
But you'll have to get up early, yeah?
No.
Yes.
Really big picture across England. Let's start with London, shall we? Huge wins.
We'll get them on Saturday afternoon.
Barnet, where they hoped they would win back the council for the first time since the start of this century.
When we go and take you to maths, maybe, yeah?
Flagship Tory borough, been blue since for 44 years, and also quite staggeringly Westminster. So big wins for Labour in London. They're very happy there. Outside the capital, much more of a mixed picture. They have made some progress in some of the southern towns and cities where they've lost support in recent years, places like Crawley, Stevenage, Southampton and Worthing. But far less success, far less inroads being made across the Midlands and the North, the so-called Red Wall areas, Tom, like Nuneaton, like Bolton, like Amber Valley, that Keir Starmer really, at this point in the electoral cycle, needs to show that he is starting to win back. So very mixed picture. Progress for the Labour Party for sure, but not as much as I think many people in the leader of Vision's office would have hoped. The big news seems to be, for now, the Liberal Democrats, whereas Labour have only gained 49 seats, the Lib Dems have gained 145, particularly areas like Tunbridge Wells, typically, of course, very Tory, but Tories lost 10 seats there, but also Richmond, Woking, Somerset, Tory shires, southeast, increasingly turning towards the Lib Dems. So they're having a good night. But ultimately, Tom, I think the top line is this. For the Conservatives, it's not a good night, but it's not a terrible one either. And when it comes to the future of the Prime Minister, I suspect that is safe for now. Ben Kendish will let you flicker off into the distance. Many thanks indeed, LBC's Westminster editor. Another yarn is being spun in Scotland right now. Gina Davidson is LBC's political editor in Scotland. What's been going on in the last few hours there, Gina?
Afternoon, Tom. Yes, well, there's around 72% of the wards declared right across Scotland now, and as predicted, the SNP are well in the lead. They are currently sitting on 347 councillors. That's up 21 from the last elections in 2017. Labour are also doing well. They are on 207 councillors. That's up 14. And the Conservatives, as they have done south of the border, are seeing their vote absolutely demolished. They have lost 49 councillors so far, and of course not all the votes are in yet. In the terms of the share of the vote, similarly the SNP's is up slightly, Labour's is up slightly, the Conservatives have seen the share of the vote down by 6%. The Lib Dems are also doing reasonably well, particularly in places like Edinburgh, where they have gained quite a number of councillors, but the SNP and Labour battle for Glasgow is getting more heated by the moment, Tom. We're here in the Emirates Arena, and honestly, with each new ward being declared, the cheers are almost taking the roof off. Labour think they might just pip the SNP to wrestle Glasgow back to Labour. Of course, the SNP won back in 2017, taking it from Labour outright for the first time. But of course, even if they get more councillors than the SNP and the Greens could well go into coalition in the same way as they are in the Scottish Government, and they might well then be the administration that runs Glasgow, because of course the way the proportional representation system works in Scotland, you know, this kind of horse trading can go on for weeks after the votes are finally in, so we're not very sure how it's going to look at the end of the day yet, but we do know that overall the SNP have had a good day, Labour have had a good day, and the Tories have done particularly badly.
I can hear them cheering you behind you, Gina. Thank you very much indeed, Gina Davidson, LBC's political editor in Scotland. More to come from there, more from Wales and Northern Ireland too. But this afternoon, an absolute bombshell from Durham. Victoria Smith is LBC's reporter in the North East. Victoria.
Probably the last thing Keir Starmer would have wanted to drop today is the announcement that he'll now be investigated by police over the Beergate allegations in Durham. Durham Constabulary will look into an alleged breach of lockdown rules when he drank a beer with reportedly up to 30 colleagues and had a takeaway in an MP's office in April 2021. And this was during campaigning for the Hartlepool election, and this is after the Force said earlier this year that there had been no offence committed, but now we've had this U-turn saying it's received significant new information. The rules in April last year was that gathering with people outside your household was against the law, but there was an exemption for work purposes. Back in January, Sir Keir Starmer said on LBC that there was no breach of the rules, and he said at that stage pubs weren't open, there was no food in the hotel. He said if we didn't get a takeaway, then our team wouldn't be eating. The Labour Party has responded today saying that they remain clear that no rules were broken and that this was a work event, but it appears their leader isn't quite ready to answer any questions about it just yet. In Carlisle, where he was meant to be celebrating a Labour win, he wasn't responding to reporters' questions, staying tight-lipped as he left out of the side entrance of a hotel.
Victoria, thank you very much indeed. LBC's reporter in the North East, Victoria Smith. Alex Norris joins us, Shadow Minister for Levelling Up and Labour MP for Nottingham North. Let's start with the good, Alex. Congratulations on those results, particularly in London. Why do you think people switched their votes?
Well, I think this is representing a bit of a turning point, these sets of elections, Tom. You know, we had a dreadful result in 2019, one of the worst in our history. Through Keir Starmer's leadership, we've been building our credibility back with the population, you know, particularly around, obviously, the sensitive issue around anti-Semitism and people in Barnet, and then across the country around our issues around economic competence. And what we're seeing is that starting to grip. You know, it's not the whole process, but to see, you know, the successes in Cumberland all the way through to Crawley, places like Kirklees in the middle, I think is a sign of what's been a good set of results and a bit of a turnaround for us.
So a reformation of the Labour Party certainly helped voters in Barnet feel more comfortable voting Labour, you say, as well as a belief that Labour can manage the economy well. I know the policy about windfall tax, but is Labour settled on who have been taken out of paying national insurance from doing so?
Well, we've been clear we wouldn't have made be the national insurance increase that has been made at this time. The defining feature, Tom, of this election has been the cost of living. People, it comes back doorstep after doorstep. People are really, really struggling. So adding that extra burden at this stage wasn't the right thing to do. We would have preferred money to go to people's pockets.
But would you put that burden, I agree with you, but would you put that burden back on to those people who have been taken out of paying national insurance, particularly because, as you say, people want to know that a Labour government, were you to be that one day, would not hit them in the pocket anymore?
Because, we are the government tomorrow, so that isn't an option available to us. What we're saying is that people need money now. It's really clear there just isn't enough money in people's pockets. The best way to address that would have been through a windfall tax on oil and gas producers who are saying they've made fabulous profits, and they really have made incredible profits. And that way you could have got hundreds of pounds to people immediately. But as I say, that's obviously not a choice up to us, but we think the government should be doing an emergency budget and making that change immediately.
That's the good. Let me ask you about the bad today. What is the difference between what is the explanation for what happened in Durham with the beer and the curry and what the Prime Minister was fined for in the Cabinet room with birthday cake?
No rules were broken. Keir's been very clear about that. It was a part of the working day. Anyone who's been part of it, I know, Tom, you've covered politics and elections for a long period of time. You know that in those last weeks, I'm never sure what you're supposed to say, but political campaigns are a horrible experience. I've done lots and lots of them. And the idea that you finish at 10 o'clock in the final week is for the birds.
But Keir Starmer says, and has said consistently, you're right, that no rules were broken, but that is now up to the police to determine whether they were. Do you agree?
Well, of course, and we're very clear that we will answer any and all questions put to us by the police, and we've got a lot of confidence in the police and obviously big believers in the rule of law, so it's right that they do that. We will take part, but we're very clear on what the outcome will be because, as I say, no rules were broken.
Let me put to you what Keir Starmer has said previously about the investigations that were launched by the Met into the Prime Minister. On the 31st of January, as the investigation began, Keir Starmer said, honesty and decency matter. After months of denials, the Prime Minister is now under criminal investigations for breaking his own lockdown laws. He needs to do the decent thing and resign. You could now replace the word Prime Minister and put in Keir Starmer, couldn't you?
No, because the difference there is, Tom, that the Prime Minister had stood up in Parliament and said, well, after all, there were parties, there were parties, and that was the context of that. We're very clear, rules haven't been broken. The Prime Minister was already saying...
But again, that's an issue for the police, as you agreed. So it's up to the police to say whether the rules were broken, because as you say, Boris Johnson said they hadn't been, and the police found that they were.
But by the time of those statements, by the time of January, Boris Johnson kind of moved away from that position and was just kind of trying to brazen it out. So I don't think the two are the same in that regard.
On the 25th of January, after the Met Police announced an investigation into the Downing Street parties, again, Keir Starmer claimed that it was grounds for the Prime Minister's removal from office. Take a listen to it.
Frankly, some of his cabinet now need to look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves why they're still supporting this Prime Minister. There's a Metropolitan Police investigation into the goings-on in Downing Street. And it's time that some of those cabinet members spoke out and said we're not tolerating this any longer.
Do you think the same should be true for the Labour shadow cabinet?
No, again, Tom, I think it's false equivalence because by this point we would have had the point of Keir saying that very clear evidence through the Sue Gray report about what had happened. There was no doubt remaining that parties had taken place. We're very clear that did not happen in this instance, and of course we'll participate in the investigation. But we're very, very clear that no rules were broken. It was a work event during the campaign as permitted by the rules. So I don't think the two things are analogous.
You know what I'm going to ask you next, and I think I know what you're going to say, but I'll ask it anyway. If Keir Starmer is fined by the police, he has previously said that fines should result in people resigning, certainly the Prime Minister and also the Chancellor. If Keir Starmer is fined by the police for breaking COVID laws, should he resign?
So I'm not going to address a hypothetical. We're very clear the rules weren't broken. We will participate as fully as Durham.
So you can be clear that the Prime Minister and Chancellor should resign at the point at which an investigation started, not even at the point when an investigation concludes they broke the rule, but can't uphold that principle when applied potentially to Keir Starmer.
But as I've said, Tom, the difference is, in that case, I had in front of me, as the entire nation did, a report by a senior civil servant establishing that parties had taken place, even though the Prime Minister had said they'd not. That is not the case here. We're very clear that it was a work event. We believe fully that that's what this investigation will show. So, as I say, I don't think the two things are directly analogous.
Good to speak to you. Thank you for your time. Alex Norris, you're the Shadow Minister for Levelling Up, Labour MP for Nottingham North. Boris Johnson has been monstered in London. There is very, very difficult times ahead in some of those Conservative shires in the southwest and southeast, given the defection of some of those to the Lib Dems. Tunbridge, Royal Tunbridge Wells Council being lost by the Conservatives. Absolutely astonishing results that are going to make Tory MPs even more jittery. Labour's had a very good day in London and in other parts of the country too, but that issue of the police is a big one for Keir Starmer. Of the two leaders, who is in the best position? Is it possible, who would have thought this, that we could enter an election in a couple of years' time with neither Boris Johnson nor Keir Starmer leading their parties? 0345 6060 973. Your thoughts on the results as they've come in thus far in just a moment. It's 4:17. News headlines now on LBC. Tim Humphrey.
Labour says the local elections are a turning point, with the Conservatives losing 11
It's always
councils
blocked
so
here,
far.
John, isn't it?
So Keir Starmer is to be investigated over
turn
allegations of
around.
lockdown breaches. McColl's
Actually,
signed
no.
administration
I'm going to
with
carry
both
on
Asda
because
and
it's
Morrison's
a bad.
interested in taking over. And the
It's a
weather
bad
in
route
east
back
and
as
south
well.
East England overnight.
Hello,
Low cloud, mist and hill fog. Elsewhere,
I'm
cloud, clear
right
spells,
here.
low
I'm
fog.
LBC travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are queues on the M4 going out of London. There's a lane blocked because the car's broken down after junction 2 for Brentford. The A12 is blocked going into London. That's because of an accident between the Green Man roundabout in Leytonstone and the Lee interchange. So there are queues. In central London, Westminster Bridge westbound is closed because of an accident.
Oh, mate, you want to jump out here?
There are delays in Greater Manchester on the
Okay.
M60 clockwise. That's because a lorry has broken down at junction 12 for the M62.
There you go.
It's slightly
Quick
tight
as you can, yeah.
northbound. One lane is closed
Come on,
between junction
mate.
64 for Washington and junction 65 for Birdsley. That's because of an accident. And on the trains, Southern and Thameslink services are suspended between Three Bridges and Horsham. That's because of an investigation.
This is LBC.
Sergey, got the pick and mix? Oh yeah. What movie ever watch? Albert Adventure. Oh, thrilling. Or a romance. Or art melting. Or a musical. Who doesn't love a sing-along? I just can't decide. Give me a couple more hours. What? Nick, and you Tuesdays and Wednesdays with 2-for-1 cinema tickets when you switch to compare the market. With qualifying product, one membership a year, participating cinemas Tuesday or Wednesday, do standard tickets only, cheapest free, T's and C's apply.
Call Eddie Mayer 0345 6060 973. This is LBC.
500,000 businesses connect using Zoom. A single platform for video, phone, chat and conference rooms, Zoom enables real-time collaboration, no matter where your teams are. Global enterprises trust the easy-to-use, reliable and secure Zoom platform to power high-performance teams. Empower your workforce with Zoom. Save 15% on meetings, chat and phone with a Zoom United bundle. Visit zoom.com/bundle. Zoom. How the world connects.
When it feels like money's tight, it's good to know that at Tesco, we price match hundreds of products to Aldi every week. From strawberries to crumpets. So you can be sure you'll find the products that matter most to you. Because right now, every little helps. Prices match pro rata and checked on hundreds of comparable products from GBLD stores and or online twice weekly. Price most often found matched excluding promotions. Products match varied by week and availability varies by store excluding Express and Northern Ireland. Details tesco.com/LD price match.
It's the BT Spring Sale. Get super fast fibre for just $26.99 a month and get more of the things you want, like a £20 money back speed guarantee, a Which Best Buy Smart Hub, and super safe Norton security included. Everything you want your broadband to be for just $26.99 a month. Hurry, ends 18th of May. Why choose anyone else? Join BT today. 24-month contract broadband only. New customers. CPI plus 3.9% increase each March. $31.99 for month 25 terms apply.
Hey, Harry. Hello, mate. Any tips for the horses? It's going to be one hell of a race, that's for sure. Oh, sorry, mate. I've got Michael Owen on the line. Yeah, Michael. Hello, Gaffer. What do you fancy in the big race today? Oh, I think the favourite will win it by a distance. I'm not sure he'd handle these conditions. I like the one at the bottom of the handicap. Your best bet is... Oh, sorry, lads, I've got to run. I'm teeing off in 20.
Whether you listen to Harry or Michael, make your best bet at BetVictor. Search online for latest offers. 18 plus, be gamble aware. Please gamble responsibly.
Tom Swarbrick. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. This is LBC.
Afternoon to you, 4:21 is the time. Tom Swarbrick with you here on LBC. I wonder who you think has had the better of it so far today, whether it's Boris Johnson because of what's happened with Durham Police and the fact that they are now going to be re-investigating what happened in the constituency office of a local MP when Keir Starmer was there with Beers and Curry. They were working as part of a campaign event, they say, but nevertheless the police are now re-investigating that. Does that mean that Boris Johnson and the mood in Conservative Central Office can lift slightly after what has been some very, very poor results, particularly in London? I mean, losing Westminster and Wandsworth was not really on the cards, really, particularly Westminster. So that has really, really sent Conservative MPs who are already jittery, very, very jittery. We'll play you what some of them have been saying a bit later about the prospect of a no-confidence vote. And to my mind, when I was getting on the train this afternoon at just before 1 o'clock, the timing's important, but just before 1 o'clock, I did wonder whether or not from here things just get worse for Boris Johnson. Whether it's the fines that could come from the police, whether it's the Sue Gray report, whether it's the investigation by that parliamentary committee into whether he deliberately misled Parliament. If Boris Johnson is not seen by his own side as an election winner, what is the point of Boris Johnson, who they feel has lost the trust of many potential voters? So at 12:45, I thought Boris Johnson was having a very, very bad day, and then the news from Durham came. And I take the Labour MP's point about potential false equivalence. There seem to have been many more events that took place in Downing Street than Labour or Keir Starmer are being investigated for. But the problem for Keir Starmer is the corner that he is backed into. He has called for the Prime Minister to resign at the point of a police investigation beginning, and has obviously, and I think probably rightly, called for the Prime Minister to resign after he's been fined. Now, if that happens to Sir Keir, if he is fined, for better or for worse, whatever happens, the police say, yep, sorry, you fell foul of the rules, what does Keir Starmer do? What can he do? And I'm afraid I really don't buy the suggestion that is trying to come through here, that Keir Starmer resigning on principle, he broke the laws, he voted for those laws, so to an extent the laws that he agreed with to abide by, and that all of us should be under too, and he broke them, therefore he's going to resign, that somehow puts more pressure on Boris Johnson to resign. I have to wonder where you've been living. Boris Johnson is not going to feel any pressure to resign because of what Keir Starmer does. Who's had the better day? Geraldine's in Waltham Forest. Hi, Geraldine.
Hi. Hi.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. I don't think anybody's buying into that this is comparable. Seeing everybody around me, everybody knows you finish work, you're away from home, you need some food. As far as I know, it wasn't prohibited to have a beer with your food. Multiple parties in Downing Street, external people, his interior designer. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody's buying into that this is anywhere comparable. I don't even know why we're comparing this. So they're away from home campaigning. They do need to get some food.
But Geraldine, listen, I accept that to a degree.
Yeah.
But this is now a police investigation. You can't get away from the fact that the police are looking at this again.
Well, the police are looking into this because the Conservatives have made sure that they created a load of agitation of no agitation. Them are the ones that are saying we've got bigger things to talk about. They're the ones talking about eating after a work event away from home.
What does that say for Durham Police Force? Do you think Durham Police Force have been swayed politically?
No, yeah, I do. Absolutely,
were the Met Police Force persuaded by the politics to investigate the Prime Minister?
They didn't need to. Several parties. There's like 17 parties. How is it comparable?
Well, because it's
just not comparable. And I really don't think anybody's buying into it.
Hang on a sec, Geraldine. We don't have a principle here where even if you only break the law once, oh, well, it's only once, so forget about it.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't go, oh, well. No, I didn't go, oh, well. If he'd had a party, it would be very different. If in his home he'd invited his friends and his interior designer was having a party, very different matter from being in your working, that you're away from home, a group of people working, and you need some food, and you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go home. It's very different.
So why are the police investigating?
I've got no idea, because I think that...
Well, no, you do. You think that the police have buckled to political pressure?
Sorry?
You think that the police
political
has
pressure.
buckled to
I believe
political
that,
pressure?
Yeah, political pressure, yeah.
But the political pressure was not there to persuade the Met to investigate.
What, Downing Street?
Yeah.
I think they had to. If you've got like 17 parties with boozes, with suitcases of booze coming in, or influence from email, come to the party and bring your own booze. It's different, isn't it?
Do you think, Geraldine, if Keir Starmer is fined, do you think he should resign?
I don't think he should be fined, because it's a completely different situation. It's not even comparable.
But that's not what he said previously, is it? I mean, his words are coming back to haunt him here. He has said the Prime Minister should resign because he was fined for breaking his own lockdown laws. I think he's right to say that, but I'm not sure he can get around the fact that the same principle could be applied to him, should be applied to him, if he is found to be in breach.
Well, you're probably right, but I don't think he's going to be fined, because I think they'll find he hasn't broken the law.
But I have to say, I do think that the outcome of this, if there is a fine, needs to be thought about quite carefully, because it could mean that Keir Starmer ends up having to resign as leader of the Labour Party, despite some very good and quite promising, from his point of view, election results today. Geraldine, thank you. John's in Macclesfield. John.
Hello, Tom. I think Keir should resign. And the reason is because if he resigns, and even if he's blameless, if he resigns, it puts massive political pressure on the Prime Minister to do the same.
John, no.
Why not?
In a bygone time, maybe, Boris Johnson feels almost no pressure from anyone or anything, other than perhaps his own MPs right now. He is not. We know enough of the man. He is not going to take his lead from the principled stand of the leader of the opposition, is he?
I know, but people like you are going to ask the Prime Minister,
of course.
Resigned. Why don't you?
Absolutely, of course we are. And the Prime Minister's going to say that's up to him.
That's up to him, and Keir's got a get-out clause because he can get back into the job, no problem. John Major did exactly the same thing when he had a lot of political problems. I won't use the word, but it began with a B, and they were all grinding him down. He resigned the office, had the leadership election, won it, and it bought him some time. But with Keir saying, oh, well, you know, it was only a little party, well, it wasn't a party rather, it was just a few drinks, it was a curry after working, they were all together, they're already on the defensive because of Angela Rayner's presence, they got that wrong. So the problem for the Labour Party is it's a false equivalence, I get it, I know it's not as bad as what the Prime Minister did, totally get that, but in the minds of voters, they're going to say, they're all as bad as each other.
Yep.
And it's going to let Boris off the hook. But by resigning, he puts massive political pressure on the Prime Minister, and he's got that get-out clause because Keir can get back. There's no way Boris will get back if he does the same as Keir and resigns on principle, which he won't do.
I think what you're describing Keir Starmer could be doing, John, in that circumstance, I would put it as taking one for the team. Because I think you create the difference between the Labour Party, whose leader resigns on a matter of principle, and the Conservative Party, whose leader may have been found to breaking the law multiple times on multiple occasions and possibly lied about it. In fact, I've got to be honest, John, I think he did lie about it. We'll wait to see what the investigation comes up with. But you create that point of difference, that the Labour brand is perhaps saved from being dragged into the mire of the Conservative brand, if one wants to put it that way, by the fact that Keir Starmer has taken the decision to resign. The fact that we're even talking about that when he's had a good set of election results is astonishing. John, thank you. 0345 6060 973. More of your calls to come. Here, former Chief of Staff to Theresa May in just a few moments as well. 4:30 is the time. News headlines on LBC. Tim Humphrey.
Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer will be investigated by police over allegations he broke lockdown rules in April last year. There's footage of him drinking a beer and having a curry with colleagues in Durham while campaigning for the Hartlepool by-election. He says it was a break during a working day. Boris Johnson says he acknowledges that local election voters have sent a message to ministers to concentrate on the issues that really matter to them. The Tories have lost control of 11 English councils so far, with Labour, the Lib Dems and Greens all gaining seats. Lorry drivers who are travelling for music concerts or sport events are going to have Brexit red tape cut in the coming months. The Transport Secretary says an agreement has been reached to let specialist hauliers travel freely between Britain and the EU from late summer.
LBC Business Update.
With Direct Line Business Insurance. Flexibility to make unlimited policy changes with no admin fees.
Convenience chain McColl's has collapsed into administration, but the firm looks likely to be saved by the owners of Asda. 16,000 jobs are at risk, as well as 1,100 shops. Morrison's, which already has a partnership with McColl's, is also tabling a bid. The weather, rain reaching east and southeast England overnight, along with low cloud, mist and hill fog. Elsewhere, variable cloud and clear spells, a low of 4.
LBC.
I'm David Lammy here on LBC. Young black children are more likely to face harsher punishments in schools, more likely to be seen as violent, more likely to be excluded. Rather than young adult or young person, a young person is described as youth. And often it's a sort of euphemism for black or brown young people. Join me, David Lammy, tomorrow from 4. Listen on your radio and on Global Player.
What a load of bollocks,
Today's
David.
tale begins when the Smith family sat down to enjoy a film. Suddenly they heard the scariest sound. The Wi-Fi is down. The family were doomed to wait for a film that wouldn't load.
Save yourself from broadband nightmares. Get BT's unbreakable hybrid broadband backed up by EE, the UK's best network. Search BT Hybrid Broadband. 88% UK availability. 4G connection takes up to 175 seconds. Best for mobile network performance. Verify at ee.co.uk/claims.
When it feels like money's tight, it's good to know that at Tesco, we price match hundreds of products to Aldi every week. From strawberries to crumpets. So you can be sure you'll find the products that matter most to you. Because right now, every little helps. Prices match pro rata and checked on hundreds of comparable products from GBLD stores and or online twice weekly. Price most often found matched excluding promotions. Products match varied by week and availability varies by store excluding Express and Northern Ireland. Details tesco.com/Aldi price match.
It's the BT Spring Sale. Get super fast fibre for just £26.99 a month and get more of the things you want, like a £20 money back speed guarantee, a Which Best Buy Smart Hub, and super safe Norton security included. Everything you want your broadband to be for just £26.99 a month. Hurry, ends 18th of May. Why choose anyone else? Join BT today. 24-month contract broadband only. New customers. CPI plus 3.9% increase each March. $31.99 for month 25 terms apply.
The Podcast Show 2022 is coming to Islington, London, May 25th and 26th, where the international world of podcasting awaits you. Featuring world-class speakers, Johnny Vaughan, Emily Maitlis, Elizabeth Day, and hundreds more, as well as the biggest brands and unmissable live shows. Day passes on sale now. Use promo code GLOBAL and get 20% off. Book yours now at thepodcastshowlondon.com.
Get up and at it, as my mother used to say. Get moving. Get your skates on. Get your hair done in the race run. Get behind the wheel. Get picking up and dropping off. Get busy. Get deliveries done and get home to see Mom. Whatever the mission, Enterprise Rent-A-Car helps over 100,000 every day.
Tom Swarbrick. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. This is LBC.
Talking about the future of political leaders, one leader has gone. The breaking news in the last few moments is that Crawley Town Football Club have just sacked their manager John Yems after allegations of racism towards his own players. There were a number of allegations made against Mr. Yems a little while ago. Another one, a former player, alleged that John Yems had been racist towards his own players, including segregating the changing rooms based on the colour of players' skin. Those allegations were being investigated by the football club, but it is now the case that Crawley Town have sacked their manager after those allegations were made. The investigation into them continues. I'll come back to your calls on a few moments about who's had the better day from your point of view, whether it's Boris Johnson or Keir Starmer. Let's focus on Boris Johnson for a moment. Lord Barwell joins us. Gavin Barwell, Conservative peer, former Chief of Staff to Prime Minister Theresa May. I wonder how you would characterise the day that the current Prime Minister has had, Lord Barwell. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Tom. So look, I think
these election results get confused when people start speaking about seat changes and which years these seats will last for. So I think there's a simple stat that everyone should focus on, which is the national equivalent share of the vote that each party got. And on the latest tally, the Conservatives are on about 30% and Labour are on about 35%. So I think that tells you two things. In terms of the Conservatives, they're down pretty much to the level where you're in real trouble. If you look historically, if the governing party goes to about 30 or below, they tend to lose the next general election. And in terms of Labour, they're nowhere near where they would need to be to win outright. The opposition party needs to get up to about 40 or above to be on course to win outright. So if you add those two things together, Tom, I think it suggests we're on course for a hung parliament at the next election at the moment. And so the Prime Minister and Conservative MPs should be worried about that. And I would add one further thought, which is I'd be keeping a close eye in particular on some of these Liberal Democrat gains and some of the key target seats they're looking at the next election. The Conservatives are in danger of facing a kind of pincer at the next election from Labour in certain areas and the Liberal Democrats in seats that normally would have been thought of as safe Conservative.
Let me offer this as a potential indication of where the future might be heading. We've got an economy that is really, really struggling. People are really feeling the cost of living and will continue to do so for some time, certainly according to the Bank of England stats. Partygate is clearly still rumbling on, whether it's the investigation by the Parliamentary Committee, more police fines, whatever else is coming in the Sue Gray report. I'm going to suggest, Gavin, that things actually do not